and we're all aware that a letter has gone to the governor requesting that he rescind the 2 horrendous laws of Medicaid expansion and for the unemployment benefits of 170,000 that will be rejected come December 31st. He has decided not to hear our cry. Are we happy about that? No! Is that why we've gathered here today? Yes! To make some noise yes! About what's going on in the state of North Carolina. Yes! We're going to move forward, and one of the ways to move forward is with some good struggle music. Yara Allen and company will come now.
You lost your mic.
Yeah.
Everybody say with me, we shall not be moved.
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 We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We fight for unemployment. We shall not be moved. We fight for unemployment. We shall not be moved just like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for our health care. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for our health care. We shall not be moved just like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved.
Every significant movement that there's ever been has had a powerful leader. We have a powerful leader. Join me in giving a round of applause to the State Conference President, William J. Barber II.
Monday! You know, if we come out like this, there's nothing that's going to turn us back. Today, as I said earlier, our lawyers won the right in court to overturn the McCrory administration attempt to limit our voice and view to a place behind the building because they do not want the people's voice to be heard and a moral critique to be rendered. The courts say no to McCrory, and we say yes to our continuing fight for justice. We must keep on because these policies are not just benign policies on paper. They are about life and death, and they have real consequences. Last week at the informational picket in Rocky Mount, a woman who happened to be white stopped by to acknowledge her support. She couldn't get out due to her sickness. She called me to her truck, thanked us for standing up, and said, without Medicaid, I would be dead. My medicines are $2,000 a month. We prayed together, and she implored us to keep fighting because what this governor, this legislature, and budget director are doing, in her words, is just wrong and immoral. This past week, I was in the YMCA, and a man came up to me and said, I'm a Republican, and I want you to know I support the Moral Monday movement. He said, I've been sick. I've had heart problems and other things. He said, I voted for McCory, but I regret it because something, in his words, is wrong with him and with them. He said, it's wrong what they are doing. When people are down, you do not throw them under the bus. When people are sick, you do not throw them under the bus. When people are poor, you do not throw them under the bus. When people are employed, you do not throw them under the bus. And you don't use your power to hurt people. Even Governor Kasich of Ohio, a Republican, has said there is something wrong when political leaders in his parties denies Medicaid expansion and attack the poor. He said it's a reverse war on the poor rather than a war on poverty. The ancient Jewish text in Isaiah says, woe unto legislative leaders who legislate evil and rob the poor of their rights. When our governor lit the Christmas tree, since he brought it up, he called on North Carolinians to remember the real meaning of the season. Dr. Spearman, he asked people to remember homeless shelters and food banks, and then he even said, remember the animal shelters. Well, Governor, we come today to say lighting a tree doesn't make you qualified to espouse the true meaning of Christmas. Animal shelters, what about families? What about the sick? And Governor, private charity does not substitute for fair public policy. The birth of Jesus represents a battle between right and wrong, between the oppressive politics of Herod, rooted in the politics of death, denial, discrimination, over against the politics of Jesus and God, rooted in the politics of love and justice and costly discipleship. The real meaning of Christmas is about the politics and values of goodwill and not ill will.
That's right.
Governor, you and this extreme legislative leadership distort the true meaning of Christmas when you deny Medicaid insurance and help to those who are sick. When you take money from the unemployed who lost their jobs of no fault of their own. The real meaning of this season, regardless of your faith, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or even if you struggle or don't have any particular faith, the real meaning of this season ought to be about goodwill towards men and women. It's not about ill will. It's not about leaders passing policies knowing people will die, knowing that people will be financially crushed. It's not about passing policies that hurt the poor, hurt the sick, hurt families, hurt the unemployment, and then attempt to camouflage your actions under a Christmas tree and say Merry Christmas. Governor, Speaker Tillis, Berger, there is nothing merry about denying 500,000 people access to Medicaid. Poor people of all races, colors, and parties, especially when you know 2,000 to 3,000 will die because of your decision. There's nothing merry about distorting the problems in our Medicaid delivery system to support your extreme immoral policy. There is nothing merry about denying 170,000 people unemployment and telling the lie that it's Obama's fault. There is nothing merry about the position you and the extremists have taken when one of your own senators, Senator Rubio, said that the Affordable Care Act and its provisions are comparative to Nazism, Stalinism, and terrorism. There is nothing merry When Speaker Tillis characterized recently those who are negatively affected by his and your extreme policy as losers and whiners. This reveals his abrasive arrogance and faulty logic of this extremism. He wants to be a U.S. senator, but he sounds like an unkind Scrooge. The people your policies are hurting, they are not the losers. They are the ones you will be judged by, because the Bible says, inasmuch as you've done it unto the least of these, you've done it unto me. This kind of talk coming from you has no connection to the real meaning and moral message of Christmas. In the Christmas story, the only person who hurt people were the Herods, blinded by their arrogance.
That's right.
It is utterly heretical in this holy season to say Merry Christmas and then promote and promulgate and pass policies that are unspiritual and unmerciful. Governor McCrory, Speaker Tillis, and Senate Leader Berger, why don't you stop doing wrong and just do right? Why don't you stop leading this state backwards and take us forward? Why don't you stop hurting people with your temporary political power? Why don't you stop offending the values of our Constitution? Why don't you stop lying to the races and just do what is right? Don't you know, Governor, if you help somebody, then your living will not be in vain? Don't you understand that if you help somebody, then your governorship will not be in vain? Your political tenure will not be in vain? But let it be known, far and wide, it does not matter what meanness does.
All right.
And it does not matter what you do.
All right.
We in the Morrow Monday Forward Together movement will not stop.
Yeah.
We will not stop shining a light on this darkness. We will not stop standing up for and with the people you are hurting. We will not stop speaking truth to power and organizing and mobilizing and preaching and registering voters and telling the troops and rallying the troops all across this state. You may not know it, Governor, but Morrow Monday is a kind of immaculate conception.
Yeah. It's all right.
This movement was born for such a time as this. Your actions will not discourage us. The more you push us back, the more we will fight to go forward. Your actions will not discourage us. Instead, they inspire us. They inspire us to mobilize more. They inspire us to dig deeper in our souls. They inspire us to stand firmer and to work harder and to pray stronger and to speak louder and to vote greater and even to stand out in the rain. Because we know there is a better way.
Yes, it is.
We know our politics can be moral, can be merciful, can be kind, can be caring, can be loving, can be just, can be fair, and can be equal. And we refuse to believe the myths of domination and the falsehoods of mean-spiritedness. We are better than your meanness. We are better than your domination. In North Carolina, we are better than this. In America, we are better than this. In this world, we are better than this. Our deepest moral values are better than this. Somebody say, yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We are better than this. And because we are, we will never stop moving forward, singing the anthem and walking in the rhythm of a determined, moral, and just people. Y'all know what that anthem is, don't you? No matter, Gene, how dark it gets, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. All in the governor's office, let it shine. All in the General Assembly, let it shine. All the way in the mountains, let it shine. All in the Piedmont, let it shine. All in the coastlands, let it shine. All in the streets, let it shine. All in the suites of power, let it shine. All in the courthouse, let it shine. All over North Carolina, we're gonna let it shine. 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 Let it shine until a change comes. We have only just begun to let it shine.
Are you gonna let your light shine? Are you gonna let your light shine? We have some voices here that you need to hear before we make our way to the State House. Miss Leslie Boyd, representing Healthcare Advocates, is going to come.
Amen.
Following her, Miss Sherelle Barber, representing Public Health Policy, and Mr. Adam Laker, in that order, Policy Analyst, are going to come. Hear ye them.
Hi, I'm Leslie Boyd. In 2008, 45,000 people died for lack of access to health care. In the 12 minutes before 4 p.m. on April 1st of that year, my son was that statistic. I sat by his bed as he died, and I knew I would have to face the rest of my life without him because somebody decided that we didn't need to expand access to health care. Well, those numbers are going to drop, but not here in North Carolina. Some 2,800 people, 2,800 mothers will sit by their children as they die. Children will sit by their parents, brothers and sisters, friends and loved ones. Let me tell you what it's like. And it's going to happen 2,800 times a year until we expand Medicaid. My heart is broken, and it will never heal. And that hole in my life will never be plugged. My child is gone, and I can't get him back. And I will not rest until these deaths stop. I wouldn't even wish this on the worst of those. We need to make sure Medicaid is expanded, that people have access to care, and that other families don't have to endure what mine has endured. Thank you.
Let us please give our speakers respect. We're hearing a lot of noise. If you can please keep it down while they are speaking. Miss Sherry Barber.
Yes.
Sherelle.
In 1966, at a gathering of the Medical Committee on Human Rights, an organization of activist doctors from Mississippi and other parts of the country committed to shedding light on racial inequities in healthcare access in the South, Dr. Martin Luther King declared these words: "Of all the forms of inequality, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and inhumane." This prophetic statement is just as true now as it was then, and as a graduate student in public health, engaged in health equity research, it is deeply disturbing to see what this state and other states are doing to deny health care to the least of these among us. It is deeply disturbing that by 2016, states that have opted out of the expansion of Medicaid will forego an estimated $8.4 billion in coverage for the poor and low-income uninsured. This is despite the fact that expansion would be fully funded by the federal government until 2017, and when states do begin to incur costs, will be less than 1% of that state's gross economic output. It is deeply disturbing that in the South, a region of the country with the highest burden of disease on just about every chronic disease indicator, and a region that has the greatest need for health care, 80% of the potentially eligible adults will not gain coverage. In this state, as others have noted, that means that 500,000 low-income individuals will not get coverage. It is deeply disturbing because despite what those opposed to the expansion would have you believe, we know that Medicaid works and that Medicaid expansion is necessary if we're going to ensure that everyone, especially the poor, has access to health care. Studies have shown, for example, that Medicaid leads to reduction in catastrophic medical debt, increased use of primary health care, increased use of preventive services such as mammograms, increased diagnosis of and treatment of chronic diseases such as diabetes, reduction in all-cause mortality, and reduction in economic and racial disparities in health care access and utilization. Those are the facts. But let us dare not forget that behind all that research and the data and the numbers are the names and faces of people who bear the brunt of health inequities and limited access to health care in this state and in this country. Let us dare not forget that the denial of health care is, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, inhumane and unjust. And even in the so-called ivory tower of academia, we have sense enough to know that the highest attainable standard of health is one of the fundamental rights of every human being. It's not a suggestion, but a right. And as such, there's something fundamentally wrong when you deny access to affordable health care to the poor. There's something fundamentally wrong when you shut down hospitals in the poorest and most vulnerable communities in our state. There's something fundamentally wrong when lawmakers decide that they're going to play politics with the health and well-being of the poor. There's something fundamentally wrong when you, in essence, strip the poor of their humanity and devalue their very existence by denying them services that prevent death and improve health. There is something fundamentally wrong. With what lawmakers are doing in this state. And I'm so glad that we have gathered during this Christmas season as people of goodwill to challenge the governor and the legislature to do the right thing and guarantee this fundamental right of health and healthcare access to everyone in this state. Together, not one step back.
Thank you. Way to go, Adam. All right. We're here today to call on the legislature to expand Medicaid, not just because it's the right thing to do, but as the Republican governor of Ohio said, we know it will save lives. It will save lives in Duplin County, down east, which has one of the highest uninsured rates of any county in the entire nation. It will save lives in Robinson County, which has one of the highest uninsured rates among young men of any county in the entire nation. It will save lives in Macon County, where 50% of young men are uninsured. And it will save lives in Richmond and Gaston County, which have some of the highest uninsured rates among Hispanics of any counties in the entire nation. And it will save lives in Dare County, which has the #1 highest uninsured rate among African Americans of any county in the entire United States. 56.3% of African Americans there are uninsured. Now, I see a lot of my friends out here who are healthcare professionals who are in many ways leading this charge for Medicaid expansion, not because they have a lot of extra time to kill. They're out here because they filled the Senate gallery the night that the Senate debated blocking Medicaid expansion. And they heard the way the legislators, the extremists, talked about their patients. And they got mad. And Senator Josh Stein stood up and he defended Medicaid expansion. He argued for Medicaid expansion. And the doctors clapped politely, the nurses clapped politely, the healthcare professionals clapped, and security rushed in. And they said, if you make any more noise, we're going to arrest all of you. And Lieutenant Governor Forrest said, he started banging his gavel and he said, there will be no more disruptions in my chamber. So we're here to march today to tell Lieutenant Governor Forrest and the rest of the extremists in the legislature that it's not your chamber.
That's right. That's right.
We're going to march to tell them that's not your legislative building. And we're going to say that's not your state. This is our legislative chamber. This is our legislature.
That's right.
And this is the people's state.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Is there anybody here from the Piedmont? Anybody here from Central North Carolina? Anybody here from Western North Carolina? Anybody here from Eastern North Carolina? We're here from the north, from the south, from the east and the west. A shout out to all of you strugglers in the movement. Forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
Not only do we have brothers and sisters who are going to be affected from the legislators rejecting the Medicaid benefits. In addition, some 170,000 of our sisters and brothers will not receive unemployment benefits. Dr. Barber is going to come. Following him will be Brother James Andrews.
Brothers and sisters, in a moment, we're going to walk. We know you've brought your candles, and you don't have to bring them out now. I just want to note it in advance. And we also have flyers that note the facts about unemployment and Medicaid. Before we close, I'm going to talk some about next steps at the end before we go over. But there's a mayor here from Belhaven. Where is he? He's in the crowd. He's my friend. Yeah, over here. Amen. And folk over here. This mayor, I want you to welcome him. He's fighting. Now we're honest with each other. We talk about, but it doesn't matter what party. He happens to be Republican, but that's not the issue. The issue is that down in his area in Belhaven, a hospital is closing in direct and in part because of the decision of this legislature, this governor, not to accept Medicaid. And 25,000 people in Hyde and Beaufort County will lose their access to emergency services. We're fighting that. In fact, we're planning on filing a legal action against what's going on. They are poor. Some people they will be 2 hours from emergency service, and there's something called the golden hour if you have a heart attack. And we've had people, I don't know if the other presidents are here. I don't think they were able to get up here today. But I would just be remiss if we didn't give the mayor a chance to talk about how important healthcare is and why we cannot make decisions that destroy people's opportunity for healthcare, particularly in these rural areas. But even at Duke University, I talked to one of the senior leaders at Duke. They're having to make decisions about cutbacks, even as much money as Duke has. So all over this state, we're starting to see the consequence. Not only will folk die, but hospitals are considering closing, and that's just wrong. That sounds like no more room in the inn And we heard that 2,000 years ago when a poor pregnant woman in the 3rd trimester of her pregnancy almost had to abort the birth because some folk in power said there was no more room. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for coming. I'm going to give you the opportunity to have some comments if you would.
Right.
I would like to just say one thing that I think is very important for all of us to realize. It is never okay to throw people out in the street when you're having a disagreement. And what's happening right now is due to this non-expansion of Medicaid, these rural hospitals are going to have a hard time surviving. So these big hospitals are coming in, buying them up, shutting them down, and sending the people down the street where they can make more money. That's what they're doing. That's what's happening to us. And this Medicaid expansion is important to all the people who live out in rural North Carolina. And I think he may have said, I'm a Republican. But once again, I just had Adam Linker. He said, wow, you're around a lot of radicals, aren't you? I said, I agree with everybody sometimes.
That's right, man.
None of us are always right or always wrong.
That's right, man. That's right.
But anyway, I also want to thank the NAACP because Reverend Barber, he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. I have been in negotiations many times. Get in a negotiation, people start backstepping. They look around, they're backing off. This man don't back off. He keeps coming. We thank you, the people of Belhaven, thank you, and we want to lend our support to you. That's why I'm up here today. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Say forward together. No matter what party. If you care about people, you care about justice, you care about what's right, forward together, not one step back. Now, as James Andrew comes, how many of you know someone that's been unemployed? Media, I want you to get this. I'll hold your hands up. Now, how many of you in this crowd have been unemployed? Look at this. Look at this. So the governor and legislators say you all are losers. And whiners. Because you've needed or you know someone who needs unemployment. One more time, everybody that knows somebody that's been unemployed. And you know that they need that unemployment to make it through. James Andrews.
Hello, hello. On June 24th, I took part in civil disobedience with 120 others, joining over 900 folks that had a clear message for this legislature.
Yes, sir.
And we again here today carry that same message. Help me out, if you will. Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
This governor, this legislature, intentionally, deliberately, made a decision to deny some 170,000 hard-working men and women of this state extended benefits. Not like my granddaughter would say, don't get this twisted. Don't get this twisted. They knew. They knew in advance because the federal legislation said if you change your law, cutting benefits, you will not be entitled to extended benefits. North Carolina, our smart Tea Party, conservative legislature and governor said, forget you. Forget you poor people and working people.
That's right.
Republicans, conservatives, Democrats. Forget you. We're going to listen to those who paid into our political campaign. Now here's the irony of this. 170,000 without unextended benefits. Listen to this.
My God.
$580 million of our federal tax dollars. Not alone, but a return to North Carolina. And you know what this legislature said? No. So for those of you who are likely to get unemployed, now you will not get, if you're making the maximum, $535. Try $350. Try only state in the nation with a 2-week waiting period. We're talking about $175 a week. Brothers and sisters, I close with this. Time is now. We call on this legislature and this governor. Reverend Barber, there's always a chance for redemption.
Always.
Always a chance to get it right. We call on you to get it right. Help those poor folks. Help those communities. Help those businesses that could have used $580 million invested into an economy that is suffering. Thank you much.
Brothers and sisters, I want to say it here and then say it again for the media. Brother Dr. Spearman wants all the clergy. We need 50 clergy to come to the back. And then, as it is our tradition, we're going to part and we're going to put our candles and hold our flyers. And we're going to take a 2x2 walk over to the place, over to the state capitol where we now have, according to the courts, the permission to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now I want everybody to get real quiet for a second. Shh. Bishop Tutu said that one of the things that was important in the apartheid movement was discipline. See, we don't have to be crazy and mean and out of order. We stand in truth and stand in what's right. Yes, if anybody says, well, their tone is a little rough, well, the Lord's tone was rough in 2,000 years ago, according to our tradition, because as James Ford said, Bethlehem wasn't just about a cute birth, it was about a battle.
That's right.
It was a real serious battle. You know, Herod killed babies to try to stop it. And anytime a government policies are so ruthless, you would make a teenage girl that's pregnant have to walk across the desert to pay taxes because the tax policies were out of order. That's pretty mean. And whether you believe it as a matter of faith or a matter of literature, anytime the Lord sent angels, it was a fight somewhere.
Amen.
Angels didn't just show up to shine. Let us all get quiet. So I want to announce here, and then we're going to make it more formal over at the state capitol for all of the media. The media still here? We have members of the media who want you to hear. Is our print media here? News Observer, AP, anybody? So I want y'all to get the message. Today, we will be announcing and are announcing a several-point strategy going forward to deal with this issue. Number one, we continue to say to the governor and this legislature, it's not too late. Now, the governor has kind of inundated in some places that he's reconsidering, or he's at least thinking about it. 9 Republican governors, 9 of them, even the one that put her finger in President Obama's face in Arizona, has turned around on this denial of Medicaid expansion. 9, somebody say 9. 9. Governor, Speaker Tillis and Berger, you could do the same thing and get on the right side of history. But secondly, we're announcing today, Gene, that we're going to, through our branches and through all of our Moral Monday partners and HKOJ partners, actively seek out people who are denied Medicaid and unemployment and document the pain and also the deaths. We're going to build a public record on what this policy will do and has done. We are going to call together a group of legal scholars and historians and specialists both in criminal law and in constitutional law to examine this question. If you as an office holder pass a policy knowing that it caused someone to die, is there a legal liability? When you know, when the New England Journal of Medicine has documented that for every 500,000 people, 2,800 or so will die, and you have that information, and you refuse to allow doctors to even testify, and you move forward anyway, and people die and or lose their possessions, is there some legal liability? We're going to ask some of the best constitutional lawyers and scholars. Tim, we need the best, the historians. Some of these questions were raised in the early days of the Social Security Administration, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, had a little different outcome, but this is a different day, and we have a different level of knowledge now. So we are moving into a season where we're not going to accept the normal legal theory. Thirdly, within the Constitution, I'm not a lawyer, but I've heard that within the Constitution, there are protected classes. African Americans, minorities, women. Your religion is protected. Your familiar status in some places is protected. We're going to examine the impact of the denial of Medicaid on those protected classes. And ask the lawyers to look and to see if in fact you can prove that these laws are producing a discriminatory, disparate impact on certain protected classes. Does not it violate both the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution and the Equal Protection of the state Constitution? Now, I'm not brilliant enough to figure it out, but I'm smart enough to ask some folk who can. Because there's one thing we are not going to do, and that is we are not going to allow 500 plus 170, which is 670,000 people's lives, fortunes, to be crucified without a witness and without a fight back. Finally, regarding next steps, we need to go home for these holy days. Everybody out here needs to let folk know all roads lead to Raleigh February the 8th. We want to have the biggest mass moral march on Raleigh since Selma to Montgomery in 1965. We want to send a shockwave across this state and to say to every other Southern legislature, when they come back, if you start this same foolishness, you're going to see this same fight all across the South. A few weeks ago, we had more than 12 states come here to learn about what you're doing. There will be a Moral Monday in Georgia on January the 13th. In South Carolina, they call it Truthful Tuesday, but it doesn't make us any different what day it is, as long as you're standing up for justice. And so say, all roads lead to Raleigh.
Lead to Raleigh.
On February the 8th.
February 8th.
You'll be getting information and mobilization from our HKOJ Assembly Coordinator, Reverend Gatewood. You'll be getting information from multiple sources. But all roads, everybody, if you care about North Carolina, come on down. If you're from North Carolina, come back. If you've never been out, come out. But we're going to say on February the 8th, if you think we fought in 2013, you ought to see how we're going to fight in an election year. You haven't seen a fight till we mobilize in 2014. You haven't seen a fight until we mobilize 50 years after Freedom Summer, and we have our own Freedom Summer right here in North Carolina. You thought you had a fight? Wait till you come back in May for the short session. You haven't seen a fight. You haven't seen a fight until our lawyers get in court and argue for all of those voter suppression laws to be denied until there's a full hearing in 2015. I want you to touch 3 people and say, they ain't seen a fight yet.
They ain't seen a fight yet.
Somebody say mobilize. Organize. Energize. Mobilize. Organize. Energize. Mobilize. Organize. Energize. Right now. Right here.
Right here.
Right now.
Right now.
Right here.
Right here.
North Carolina. Ground zero.
Ground zero.
We will.
We will
Not. Turn. Back. Forward. Together. Not one step.
Not one step.
Back. Would you now light your candles?